to the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day.
All right. I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is the Chiro Business Mojo Podcast. Hey there, everybody. Thanks so much for checking in again with me. I hope you get a lot of value, a ton of value, in fact, from what we're going to talk about and who we are going to be talking with today. His name is Dr. Alex Vidan. He's a well-known speaker in and around the St. Louis area, but he's also a national speaker. You can catch him at seminars and schools all over the place, really, speaking about chiropractic. Dr. Vidan has served as one of the team physicians for the St. Louis Cardinals. He did that since 2009, including the 2011 championship year. Since 2008, he's been a regularly featured consultant on health and wellness topics for Fox 2 News and KPLR Channel 11 News. He serves on the executive board of the Mid-County YMCA and is vice president of District 1 of the Missouri State Chiropractic Association. He got his doctorate degree in 2004 from Logan, and his love of teaching was apparent there. He won numerous accolades, including the Award of Excellence. After graduation, he returned to Logan as an adjunct faculty member while also running a busy, successful private practice. He is equally at ease in front of an entire city on live television or just presenting to groups of all sizes. Welcome, Dr. Alex Vidan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today, and I invite you to jump in and fill in any gaps I may have missed in your bio.
No, I tell you, I loved everything that you said there. It sounded fantastic. Yeah, I mean, a big part of our focus is definitely sports and helping people and definitely getting out in the community, doing talks, things like that. A big part is also being on the news, as you mentioned. So we love doing all those things.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to dig in and really go over some of those nuts and bolts of how it is you do what you do. But before we get to that, let's go back to the beginning. Take me back to why you became a chiropractor.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. I was actually, before I got into chiropractic, I was pre-med. I was working in the hospital, and I was enjoying it. I just wasn't liking the fact of, with these patients, what I was seeing. You know, I was thinking, man, there's got to be a better way to help these people. I had a concussion playing sports, and that concussion left me with having 5 to 6 headaches a week, 1 to 2 debilitating migraines a month. That was on average for me, and I hated taking anything as far as medications went, and I would just tough it out. And then, like a lot of patients that we hear out in the community, it's, you know, I just got tired of it, and I tried everything else. And one of my buddies kept on me about going to a chiropractor, and I said, man, I don't have back pain. Why would I go to a chiropractor? He was like, no, for your headaches and your migraines. I said, no, man, I don't have back pain. I don't understand why I would go see a chiropractor for that. And eventually I just said, okay, give me your chiropractor's number. Let me check this out. And when I went, I started getting relief. And I thought, you know what? This is what I want to do. And so I feel like I entered chiropractic. Chiropractic found me for sure. I didn't find chiropractic. It found me. And it was one of those scenarios where it gave me the answer that I needed for a solution. And it also fit within my professional aspirations of, I want to be a doctor that helps people without having to do drugs and surgery. I just didn't know another option prior to having my first experience with chiropractic.
Yeah, such a great paradigm that we all share and not an altogether uncommon beginning. That's oftentimes how we fall into chiropractic. Well, take me back to that moment. You know, we all have that proud moment. We walk across the stage, we shake hands with the president of our chiropractic school, and we pose for that picture. Our family's there, our friends are there, and we are graduating. But we walk out with that same piece of paper, but we all take different paths. So in 2 minutes or less, give us the highlights of your journey from graduation to where you are today.
Okay. So, and I'm smiling as you're even mentioning it. It's bringing back those memories. When I started off in practice, I started off with my wife. She's a chiropractor too. So when I crossed the stage, I turned around and hooded her, and as she crossed the stage, which was great. And we graduated together, started our own practice together. And it was dismal. It was terrible. You know, we could barely scrape 2 pennies together. We were just on fire for chiropractic, but did not know how to get our message out there to more and more people. So while we were totally passionate and just doing and giving and serving in every way that we could, our direction and our focus wasn't the right way. finally we started dialing it in and realizing, okay, this is where we need to focus. This is where we're going to put all of our effort and energy in this aspect of our practice, or getting out in our community more and more and hustling harder, because we thought that we were working hard, but we didn't realize how hard we really needed to do it. And so we gave ourselves a good kick in the butt, and we had some good people out there that are amazing people to kick us in the butt too, which I find is a good thing to have every now and then. And we turned it around, and then we started serving more and more people and getting out in the community in an impactful way.
Well, I want to shift forward in time to where you are today. Why don't you give us an overview of your practice? What are the services that you offer?
Sure.
What is that experience like for a patient when they come to your office?
So in our practice, our focus is chiropractic. It's the adjustment, and that's our thing. We might do a few ancillary things along with that as well, but the primary focus is chiropractic. And so when a patient comes into our practice, it's having them understand, it's meeting them where they are, number one. So we want to connect with them, meet them where they are when they walk into the door, and that they are probably coming into a very similar experience that I had coming into chiropractic. It's, I have this problem. I want you to fix it. I don't understand everything else about chiropractic, but just fix this problem. So I want to meet them where they are and then show them what it is that they could have through chiropractic care. And so we take them through that process. And as we do, we get to help everything from kids. Yesterday morning we had 20 kids that were in the practice all at the same time, running around, tearing it up, doing their thing, being the kids that they are. And we get to serve adults, and we serve anywhere from peewees to pro athletes, and we love it. And it's a lot of fun. We treat corporate athletes, guys that are out there, girls that are out there, moms that are doing their thing. We love it. It's a great thing.
So are you what would be considered a high volume practice?
Yeah, in today's standards, it would be a high volume practice. So I like it. It's one of those things where I think that we get too stuck on the numbers, as in, like, what's your number? Like, what's that number per week? And I find that we shouldn't be as stuck on that, as in my philosophy, it's not as much of what is the exact number that you see, as opposed to what is actually that you're doing as far as, can you take care of your family? Can you make sure that you're doing those things too, as far as profit goes as well? And that's my take on that.
Well, let's talk about the marketing aspect for a moment of running a practice. What kind of marketing do you do, and what do you find is working the best for you these days?
Yeah. We are very heavy on basically two different aspects. One is being on the news. So I'm on the news typically every other week. I've been doing that since 2008. It is not something that I pay them to be on. It's something that I've built a relationship and developed a way of having that as far as a strategy to make that work for us. And we drive in a lot of patients from that. Then the other thing that we do is we do a lot of talks. So we get into corporations, we get into mom groups, we get into church groups, we get into schools. We do all those things in order to expand our reach and expand our presence as well. So as we do that more and more and getting out into the community, we're finding that more and more people want what we have. They just don't know that we do what we do. Very similar to, like you said, most people's chiropractic story is, I didn't even know this about chiropractic. And so I want to be the one that gets out there, and I want more of us getting out there and taking responsibility for that message being out there.
Well, interesting. You've got my interest here on getting on the news. That sounds to me like something really tough to do. Why don't you take us through how we would go about approaching our local media to get on the news?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. There's a whole strategy that's associated with that, just like, taking a patient through their initial process. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I found that the best way to do it is to ensure that you are developing a relationship with them, that you have to get their attention first. Obviously, getting their attention is the number one thing, and making sure that it's relevant to something that they want to be a part of. Once that happens, then you can take them through the next process of delivering the goods, right? So you deliver the goods, you show them, this is how it is that I can be present on your news and be present in our community and deliver value to that relationship as well. And then you're going to build the relationship. So there's a multi-step process in just each one of those as well. And that's what I go over in my program with those types of things. And I'm not trying to get into the whole thing as far as the program goes with like pitching a program. I'm just saying that there's these aspects to it that it's really key. And I truly, it's my goal, it's my passion, it's my heart to have it to where we have a chiropractor that knows what he or she is doing on every news station that's across the United States and then across the world, because think of the tipping point that we would have within that and just expanding our reach. It would be amazing. And so that's one of those things that is a personal mission for me.
Well, like we mentioned in your bio, you have been one of the team physicians for the St. Louis Cardinals organization since 2009. And I know a lot of people get into chiropractic following an injury, a sports injury specifically, and that's what starts them on their path for their career. And so a lot of chiropractors are either now in the realm of sports chiropractic or they're going to be when they get their doors open. So what does a doc need to do to become a sports chiropractor at the professional level?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I get a lot of times. So I've been really fortunate that I've been able to help some docs with that process. The hardest thing that I find is getting your foot in the door somewhere, right? Because they get approached so much. And even with the Cardinals, whenever I was down there on a regular basis and multiple times throughout the week and everything, they would always get pitched from different people, right? They would get people that would hit them up as far as, this is how I can help this guy with this, and I can help that player with that thing. Well, the big thing is who do you know that can get you as far as in front of that right person that's really going to be of value that can make that happen? So that's one aspect. And then also when you're there, you've got to be able to actually, like we said before, deliver the goods. Far too often we get a shot about things and we aren't able to step up to the plate for that. And when you have that opportunity there for any of these things, when you're talking about at a higher level, you've got to be able to have confidence and certainty in yourself and what it is that you can do and will do for whoever it is. Down there for the Cardinals, the goal is very simple. Our goal is to make sure that we all work as a team in order to ensure that we get that player or keep that player out on the field. And it's very, very simple. So whenever I was down there on a consistent, persistent basis, it was fantastic. I loved doing all that. I'm a bit too busy now to be able to have the level of time commitment that I was there. Now it is that they come to the practice here rather than me going down there to the stadium. So to come back to your question of how do you actually break through that, the way that it happened for me was, I'll tell you, I had opportunities where like I said before, I was constantly out in the community. So when my name got brought up in that circle with the Cardinals, as far as who do we want to come in and be our chiropractor and work with us, and my name got thrown into the ring, other people had heard my name as well. And because of the fact that there was so much overlap, it was like, all right, well, let's give this guy a shot. And whenever I got that shot, at the time, it's not so anymore, but at the time I was the youngest as far as what the St. Louis Cardinals told me. They said, you are the youngest physician that we have that we know of in Major League Baseball right now. And at that time I had just had my 33rd birthday. So that was pretty exciting for me at that time. So I don't want people to think, well, I'm too young for that. And even if you're in your 20s, I don't want people thinking they're too young, and definitely don't want people thinking they're too old. Those are just obstacles that we put in our own way. And they're looking for people to help that. If a team already has somebody, I always suggest, look, don't go stepping on toes. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to push somebody else out. We have enough of that in our profession. We need to have more unity within it instead of more conflict within it. So I love the fact that you're doing what you're doing here to help other docs with that and create that unity within us all.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that is one of the goals of our podcast. And people like you coming on, really helping connect those who are in need of knowledge with those who have the knowledge. I want to talk a little bit more about the sports chiropractor position. So if you are a team physician, is that typically a paid position, or is this something you do and you donate your time?
No, I'm so glad that you asked that. That's a question I get all the time. It can be structured a lot of different ways. So I've seen it structured to where someone is paying to be part of the team. Like I'm paying to be part of the team physician. I've seen other situations where I'm getting paid to be part of the team. And I've seen other scenarios where it's, well, I just bill their insurance for whatever it is that we get. And other scenarios where, I don't get paid for them, but what they do is we kind of barter it out. They give me marketing. I get to use this. And then I get to say that I'm part of the team, that kind of a thing. So I'm not getting paid, but I'm getting marketing. So I'm kind of getting paid. The way that it worked for me with the Cardinals was that I was actually getting paid by them, which was great. And that's, if you can do that, that's the way that I suggest it. But look, in any scenario, you have to realize that there's different forms of currency and there's different ways that you can do it. So it's just finding what's going to work best for you and that team. One thing that I would suggest is that if you're looking to get into, let's say, a college, university, and be part of their team, they might not have always the funds available depending on the level that's there for them. So what else can you do to structure the deal to make it to where it's a win-win? Another thing that you have to think about is this. If they are giving a shot for you, they're just saying, hey, let's see about giving this guy or this girl a chance to come on board. What if you structured the deal initially so you said, hey, at first what we're going to do is I'm going to donate my time. I'm going to come in. I still get to use your logo or I still get to say that I'm part of the team, but you're not going to pay me for the first season or first year or for the football season that I'm going to do it. But when we go into doing things for baseball, when it starts up in the spring, because we're working with the university, then we're going to redo it so that we can show that I've got value and I'm going to get paid in some way. Because you have to realize it's going to take your time away from your practice. So how much are they going to pay you to make it to where it's worthwhile? Is that trade-off going to be enough? At first, there's going to be a bit of hustle and grind that goes on in making that happen. But then on the back end, it should be to where it starts making you more awareness and more profitability for it too. Because I'm okay with doing things out of just the congruency of I want to give just to give and serve. But at the same time, you still need to be able to provide for your family and keep the lights on. And, you know, your landlord probably still wants his rent and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, if you've got a family, that leads me to my next question is how big of a deal is, or big a part of this is the ability to travel. Do you typically stay right here for the home games, or do they want you on the road?
Yeah, for me personally, I don't go. I would never go out on the road unless it was postseason, and I feel like that's kind of the way it works in Major League Baseball. For other docs that I know that work with other teams, I know docs that work with other teams as well. And whenever I'm talking with them, they find the same thing. They don't travel, they don't go on the road because they all have private practices. The same thing, just so that everybody realizes, is that the same rules hold true no matter if you're the DC, the MD, the whatever it is, the surgeon, whoever it is. They're not usually traveling with the team as well. What they do instead is that whenever another team comes to a different city, they expect that the chiropractor that's there for that team typically will take care of that team as well, the visiting team. Not always, but typically it's like a reciprocity thing that they end up setting up. So it allows you to then meet a lot of other players and a lot of other teams and have the ability to connect with them as well. Now for football, I find that that's typically different. Not always, but the guys that I know that take care of different football teams, they typically will travel with them a little bit more. Hockey can vary. Sometimes they'll travel and sometimes they'll stay home. The traveling at first sounds really exciting. After a while, you start seeing how much they're traveling and how much they have to be on the road, and that's a lot, and it takes away from your practice and your personal life as well.
Well, I would think if I was starting into practice or leaning towards wanting to treat the professional athletes, that it would be in my best interest to treat at all levels, the high school, the college, like you mentioned. Is that a strategy? Is that what you did? That's
not what I did. I was really blessed and I was really fortunate in the fact that I had the opportunity to get into, in St. Louis, what would be the number one organization that's here. That's the pinnacle. Everybody is a Cardinals fan here. This is a baseball town, and I had that opportunity, which was great. But at the same time, a lot of times what can happen is that you can work your way up, as in I started here with this high school, and then I move into this college, and then I move my way into that professional team. Just realize that that's a long-term path that happens. All of these are long-term paths. It's not something that I started off in school and I thought to myself, I would love to work with the Cardinals. It was always a goal of mine. But I really thought, man, I'm going to have to hustle and work and do it. All the other things I did because they were the right things to do, not because I was doing it because, I'm going to get to be with the Cardinals if I do this. I did it just because, well, that's the right thing to do. So I'm going to make that happen because it was true to my mission and true to what I wanted to accomplish. So I kept pushing in those directions and those things all panned out for me. But there's no way that you'll know ahead of time whether or not that's what's going to lead to the direction that you want to go. You just have to keep pushing in the right direction and following what you find as your purpose and passion and doing that.
Well, when you're treating down where the games are played, do you need any special equipment there beyond just that adjusting table?
I didn't. No, I find that the best thing that you can do is, and I love that question too, is that the best thing that you can do is you can be inclusive. And so what I mean by that is this, is that most of these teams are going to have, and this is, if you're taking notes, definitely write this part down. If you're part of a team, you want to be part of a team that they've got a PT or an athletic director or a athletic trainer, or they have a orthopedic surgeon, or they have whatever it is that's there. Even though you could do the same thing as the physical therapist or the athletic trainer, maybe you have training in that as well, and you can do that, and you specialize in muscle work, or you know how to wrap an ankle because you were an athletic trainer before, or that's just really where your passion lies in doing those things. There's nothing wrong with that. But why not be inclusive instead of exclusive? Why not instead say, hey, Adam, I noticed this going on with so-and-so's shoulder. Would you mind taking a look at that and see what you saw as well? And make it to where it's a joint effort. Now, you might be able to go ahead and do muscle work on that shoulder. I could certainly do that too. But why wouldn't I want to have somebody else take a look at it so we can co-manage this case together so that we can work together? The more that I do that, the more they're going to do the same thing for me. The more they're going to say, hey, I know you keep noticing this thing going on with your shoulder. Why don't you have Dr. Vidan take a look at what's going on with your shoulder and see what he sees too? Maybe you've got a first rib problem going on here because I'm feeling this happening. Have him take a look at it too. Next thing you know, you start including more people in that conversation, and that conversation gets bigger and bigger, and then your reach gets bigger and bigger. So you're being inclusive instead of exclusive.
Well, you provided a ton of great information so far. Is there anything else that the aspiring sports doc should know?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say that just the biggest thing is following your passion and realizing that you might have gotten into chiropractic because you were an athlete or you aspired to work with athletes. And you can do that at multiple different levels. So don't sell yourself short in thinking that, well, just because I'm taking care of peewees and I'm not taking care of pros means that it's any less valuable. Because what's happening is you're establishing those relationships now, and you're establishing those habits for them now, and understanding that as a young athlete, if I continue along this path with chiropractic, I'm going to have the best opportunity possible to continue to stay out on that field and fulfill my dream as an athlete to achieve that level of success that I want to have, whether or not it's playing at the high school level, or they get the opportunity to play at the college level, or they get the opportunity to play in the minors or the pros. And so still pour into that and treat every one of those as in, this is game day ready. I've got to be ready to maximize the opportunity for this athlete and make it happen and give it the focus and attention that it really needs.
Well, there's so much you're involved with and so much you do, so there's a lot we can talk about. I'm going to try to pare it down because we don't have all day to talk, but I want to shift gears and talk about TMJ.
Sure.
How you treat that and what are your secrets?
Yeah, no, that's great. So I got involved in treating things like TMJ because of the fact that I actually had a problem with it and I couldn't find anybody to really help me. So I went and I took multiple different approaches in trying to help myself with my jaw problems and figured out a way to do that. And then I started working with oral care providers like dentists, orthodontists, oral surgeons, and talking with them about what they did, took their information, basically trimmed it all down to what it is that I've developed as a technique that's specific to TMJ in addressing that temporomandibular joint and correcting the dysfunction and helping them as best that we can to make it to where now we're getting them back to working the way that they should be. So I basically just trimmed all the fat, brought it all down to this is what we need to do so that it's highly effective and highly efficient. So it takes anywhere between 30 to 90 seconds for us to do it. You get results. And the great thing about that market is that oral care providers are looking for people to refer out for this. They're looking for people to send out to get that taken care of because they don't really want it. It's not their focus. And because for most of them, it's not their focus, they're looking for a great person, a great doc to be able to refer out to. The thing is, again, just like we've mentioned a couple of times, you've got to be able to deliver the goods and not kind of get results. You need to make sure that you really know how to get results. So you're not dabbling in it and you're not getting like, oh, well, I'm getting, most of them I get kind of good and it gets kind of the results that they want, but we never really get it fully resolved. That's just not going to get you there. You've got to get to a point to where it's, all right, we've got this dialed in. We know exactly what to do. We can work it to where now we're getting the corrective results that we want, and we can show that, and the oral care provider sees it too, so they continue to want to refer into your practice too, which is great.
Well, is this something that you lecture on and teach on, or is there a way that they can access this?
Yeah, it's something that I do seminars on. And so this past year I did 5. I did, 4 here in the States. I did 1 over in London. This coming year, I'll be doing a couple more here in the States and maybe one overseas as well. So it's just something that there's a lot of hands-on for it. So I've got to make sure that docs are doing it the right way. And so the seminar is dialed into where there's a lot of hands-on, but you also realize and learn how to speak to the oral care providers as well so that they can then communicate best for you and communicate best with the patient so that the patient knows, well, why am I going to see a chiropractor for my jaw problem?
Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot of education about how to treat TMJ when I was in school, but I found the demand for it was out there, and I developed a relationship with my dentist, and for years it was a wonderful, not only co-management source, but a cross-referral source. So I think spending some time getting good at that is in the best interest of anybody who's practicing chiropractic right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about another thing you're involved with, and that is Wellness Champions. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Wellness Champions is my buddy Brad Glowacki's program to get docs out into their community more and more. I mentioned to you that a strong point of my practice is how it is that we get people into the practice and understanding what chiropractic is really about is being on the news and then being in the Wellness Champions. So the Wellness Champions get you into corporations. It gets you into schools. It shows you how to do that so that you are the person that understands how to do it. The cool thing about it is it's designed to allow you to have to where you can either do it or you can have somebody else doing it. So if you're a doc that has other staff that's been with you for a period of time that could fit into that, they could actually be the ones that are doing it all for you, and you just show up and do the talk, which I love. My staff takes care of it all. They tell me when I'm showing up for a talk, I go in there, I do my talk, I leave. So I'm informed but not involved on the day-to-day of it. And that's all just following that Wellness Champions program.
Well, I want to ask a couple questions related to that, and hopefully you'll share a little bit with us. How do we even get in the door? To me, that seems maybe the toughest part.
Yeah. And you know, with all these things that you're asking, that is a really tough part with each one of these aspects. It's how do we get in the door? How do we break down that barrier? And there's different strategies for each. So if you're looking at getting into a hair salon and talking to people that are working there, which we all know they're in odd positions and taking care of people. We were talking about oral care providers. They're obviously in odd positions where they know that they're straining their neck, upper back, low back. The strategies in that are going to be different than the strategies as far as getting into a 500 company is going to be one that's going to be a little bit more difficult because of the fact that, well, there's more red tape. There's more bureaucracy within that. So you've got to figure out the different people, the exact person to talk to, and that point of contact. The cool thing is that as you start getting into a corporation or you start getting into a group like the Wellness Champions, what it does is it allows you to leverage other things. So I can say, well, I've got a friend over in these 3 areas that are already working with Boeing, so it'll make it easier for me to get my foot in the door with Boeing. Oh, I've got these people over here that are working with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Oh, it's going to make it easier for me to get in with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I don't have any Fortune 500 companies in my area, but you know what? I do have a ton of small business that's in my area as well. I just don't know how to break down that barrier and get in the door. So the thing is to finding how it is that you can relate value into that and do it to where when you're connecting with those people that you're bringing value to the conversation, you're showing them how you can help them, not showing how it's going to help you. And so a lot of times I think we need to flip our perspective. We look at it as, how is it that me getting into this company or into this group, this mom's group, this La Leche League, this small business, whatever it is, how is this going to help me? Well, we all know that givers gain, but we've got to flip our idea on that and flip it upside down. And when we do that the more that I give, the more that I'm actually going to gain on this, and the more that it's going to help expand that outlook and expand more and more people. When I'm on the news, it's not always directly that people are coming into my practice, but it's sending people into other practices too and creating that conversation so that we're growing the aspect of chiropractic, but it's also growing your practice too. And that's what you want.
Well, it sounds like we need to tailor our subjects, like you said, to the people we are speaking to, and that's going to be different, depending on the setting. Speaking of settings, do you go to their workplace, or do you have them come to your office?
Do you mean whenever I'm providing care?
No, when you're giving these talks.
Oh, when I'm giving the talk, I like to go there. We certainly do internal talks here at my office. We have a designated space set up for that. But what we do is I like to go into the corporation, give the talk, and then show them how it is that we can help them chiropractically. But I want to give them help with that too. So whether or not we're talking about stress or we're talking about posture, or we're talking about ergonomics, or whatever it is that's going to be of value to that particular company, to where they say, you know what, that's an interesting topic. I do want that. Or we're helping with a women's group. We've got to make sure that this is a talk that's developed just for women that we can end up doing. It's going to help them. That's going to be information that they can gain value for. And you'll notice I keep saying value, because we need to provide value to that. Realize that these companies get bombarded with people all the time saying, well, we can provide your wellness talks. We provide this wellness program. We can do this. But there's always places where you can fill in the gap. So one thing that I would say that is going to be of great value to your listeners is saying, if you're in contact with a company and you've got your foot in the door and they already say, well, like a company like Boeing, I referenced Boeing, they have wellness programs already set up. Those wellness programs obviously have gaps and holes that need to be filled, though. Find out if you can provide the opportunity to end up filling that gap and hole. So if you're taking notes, this is another one too, is that their objections become your objective. So their objections to what it is in having you there, or having you be a part of their wellness program or their company or whatever it is, needs to become your objective. And so you need to make it to where, if that's your goal, is getting into that company, it's, well, they have this objection of me coming in because they already have this wellness program. But this wellness program doesn't really drive people into doing things and making changes. No. Well, now I need to make sure that I have an objective for that. I don't want to assume that, but my objective is going to essentially be, I need to figure out how I can fill in that gap and make sure that I can help them get what they want. By helping them get what they want, I'm going to automatically get what I want as well. In the fact that I'm going to get in front of more people, and then I'm going to help them close to chiropractic and understand what it is that they can do in chiropractic to help themselves.
Well, I do have a final question on this topic before we move on, and that is, how long should these talks be?
Shorter the better. The shorter the better, I find, for you and for the company. Yeah, the idea of having an hour-long talk, I find, is really difficult now. It's tough for companies, big or small, to dedicate that time. If you can, that's fine. My longest talks, I like to keep them around 10, 15 minutes, and short and sweet, and deliver information and keep the content the way that it should be, just tight. And then the next thing that we'll end up doing is we can maybe do a 30-minute to a 45-minute. But I really prefer to keep them 10, 15 minutes long, deliver the goods, and make sure that they have it, because it's easier. If they only have a 1-hour lunch, I don't want to fill all that with me giving content and doing all that, because it's difficult for them. It's harder for them. They're trying to jam things in, just like we're all trying to get more things done during our lunchtime as well. They want to have a bit of time to check out, listen to something that's going to be helpful, and then go ahead and get back to what it is that they're doing.
Well, I want to shift gears again, and I want to move on to the bigger picture of success in practice. And there's a lot of reasons why we're successful, and there's a lot of reasons why people are not successful. If you pull out laziness and burnout and things like that, why is it that you think more people are not successful in practice?
I think that there's a couple of different things. I feel like one of them is, a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. And so we don't know what that bigger picture looks like. It's hard sometimes to step back because we're so in our day-to-day that we don't realize that while we're busy, we're not being productive, right? That there's a difference between profitable production and actually being busy. So what are the things that you're doing right now? Like, what is one thing that when you get done listening to this podcast that you can do that is actually going to be profitable production, that's going to get things done? Not, I'm getting ready to get ready to do this. No. What is it that you can do right now? Who are 5 people that you can pick up the phone as soon as you get done listening to this podcast? What is it that you can do? Call 5 people that can definitely change your life, and realize that it might take a while of follow-up. We talked about getting into companies, or talked about working with teams, and we talked about doing things as far as being on TV, and we talked about all those things and working with oral care providers. Your persistence is what's going to pay off. So stay persistent in what it is that's going on. Having a deeper why, that it's not about you, it's about other people, it's about the message that you want to get out there. will drive you into having that. Now, your why can be whatever it is for you, right? It can be your family. It can be proving somebody else wrong. It can be, I just want to be successful for the fact of being successful. I want the monetary stuff. I want the stuff, the vacations, whatever it is. I mean, that's your personal thing, but it's got to be something that's deep rooted in you that really connects with your why, that's going to motivate you to get out there and do more. There's a difference between hustle and grind. The hustle is the part that you say, I'm hustling because this is the stuff that I like to do. Like I like hustling on and doing this and doing the podcast with you, which I totally appreciate you having me on to share this. You know, the hustle is the stuff that you like doing, that you're just like in it to do it. The grind is all the stuff that nobody sees. Like nobody saw the years that I put in, all the hours I put in, the 80-hour, 90-hour, 100-hour work weeks that you put in order to get the things that you want. People just see the end result and they don't see all the back end of it. Realize that those 80-hour, 90-hour, 100-hour work weeks that you're putting in, whatever it is, whatever time you're doing, that is the time where you get the opportunity to grow. And that's the time that you put in because that's the level of success that you want. And so by you putting that in, that doesn't mean that you neglect your family. That doesn't mean that you stay away from them or stay away from your friends or doing the things. But what things can you trade off? Like is really, football going to be that important to you? Yeah, I love my football, but at the same time, what would I rather be doing? Spending time with my family or watching football, right? So those priority lists can change too. And as you start growing your levels, you start realizing that there's more important things that become higher on your value system and higher on your priority chart that start to change within that too. And if you want to reach a new level, what's your new level of priority is going to be?
Yeah, so important to make a distinction between busy work and the grind. And speaking of grind, what advice do you have for the new doc that they can start doing tomorrow? Action step or a series of steps to really get that grind going. And let's do that same question for someone who's been around, 5-6 years and they're maybe stuck.
Sure. For the new doc, I would say for 1 second, just literally for 1 second, you're listening to this, take one step back and look and say, okay, who are 5 people, 5 companies, 5 contacts that I have that I can connect with and that can definitely make an impact on my practice. So that's one thing. Then you've got to reach out to them, right? And realize that you might have to follow up 10, 20, 30 times in order to get the result. Now, when you're following up, one thing that you have to do on follow-up is constantly add value to the conversation, not when are you going to refer to me? When are you going to start letting me come into your company? When are you going to do that? It's how do you add value to that conversation? And that's only something that you can answer and you can figure out. But doing that in creative ways makes a big difference. The other thing that I would say is let go of all the other stuff that you don't really need. Look, I've got buddies that are into fantasy football. I've got buddies that are into different things like that and all that. And that's fine. Or gaming, or maybe that's how you check out and that's how you step away. But how much time are you actually devoting to that? And break down your schedule. Look at your schedule and figure out how much time am I actually devoting to TV? Because everybody says I don't watch much TV. Yet the average American is spending, 7 hours a day on TV. Okay, if it's not TV for you, what is it? Is it YouTube? Is it Netflix? Is it that you're on social media? What are you doing that's taking up and sucking up all your time? Where can you devote time that's actually be productive for you? So for the new docs and the old docs, I would say start investing in yourself. How do you invest in yourself? It can be books, it can be audiobooks, it can be going to seminars, it can be listening to podcasts like yours that are pouring into people, but then you've got to take the action steps behind it. So tomorrow morning, wake up 20 minutes earlier and pour into yourself and figure out, all right, these are the action steps that I've got to have. I'm going to have an action plan that I'm going to work out, and I'm going to work it backwards from that. So if I know that if I get to connect with these 5 companies, and from those 5 companies, I can get 5 talks. From those 5 talks, I know that I can close, let's just say 2 people per talk. Then that's all of a sudden going to make it to where now I've influxed 10 new patients. Now I'm keeping it low because I want you to see that that's the plan, but they're very attainable goals. The more attainable you make the goals, and the more steps you can build your success on. And then you say, well, instead of me reaching out to 5 companies that I think that I can get into, what if I reach out to 20? What if I reached out to these oral care providers? How many of them would refer to me per month? What if I got on TV and got my message out to 100,000, 1 million people all at once? So in 3 minutes or less, I reached all those people. How long would that take me to do that if I was doing it one-to-one, just like your podcast here is doing the same thing. It's reaching, thousands of docs that are out there that are looking for what you're providing and allows them to grow.
Well, you've obviously had a lot of success over your career, and we learn a lot from our successes. We always get better, but we tend to learn more from our challenges, those failures, those obstacles we have overcome in life. Is there anything you've had like that? It can be professional, it can be personal. What was it? What'd you learn?
I would say that the biggest thing that I learned and this is just completely being honest and open, and I love this question that you're asking because I've definitely learned more from my failures than I have from my successes. And I think that comes from the opportunity to reflect on that and hold myself 100% accountable for all of that. Like hold myself 100% accountable for my failures. In my life, I basically had it to where I was always the team captain. I was always the class president. I was always the whatever it is. Like I was always that guy. And so in chiropractic school, it was the same way. When I graduated, I knew I was going to kill it. And as soon as I got out in practice, I was by no means in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, I couldn't even rub two pennies together. It was terrible, like it was horrendous. And my wife and I were like, you got to be kidding me. This is not right, because she's the same way. She's the same type of personality. And we're like, how is it that two successful people that have been successful our whole life with so many things are failing this bad? And I realized I was doing what you were saying. It was the busy work as opposed to the productive work. And I realized I wasn't really as good as I thought that I was. And so I needed to really take a gut check. And I was so thankful that I got that proverbial kick in the groin. Like I got that when I first started out in practice. So I could then say, man, it's gut check time. And am I going to do this and really make it happen? Am I going to put forth all the effort and energy? Because I looked at myself and I said, I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm doing it. And then when I really stepped back and I looked at myself, I go, man, I'm not doing it to the level that I should be. Because I had to look at myself as far as different levels. And if I can just add one more little thing in there, is that in high school, you thought that you were busy. You probably, you were busy with homework, you were busy with social stuff, you were busy with sports, whatever it is. You thought that you were busy. And then you got to college and you go, holy cow. In high school, I was not busy at all. But in college, now I'm really busy because I've got all this other stuff. And then you got to chiropractic school, got to chiropractic college, and you thought, holy cow, now I'm really busy. Now I know what busy is. And then you graduated in practice and you thought, man, where was all my time before? Now I really need to up my level. So if you really evaluate yourself and you look at it and go, all right, am I really being truthfully playing at the level that I want to play at? Am I really holding myself as accountable and principled and focused and whatever that is for you at that level for you? Is that really where you want to be, or do you want to up your level? If you're going to up your level, then where do you have to be in order to do that? What do you have to do? Does it mean you wake up a half hour earlier? Does it mean that you focus a little bit more? Does it mean that you fill your time with things that are going to be positive and energetic and working towards your goal as opposed to things that are just filling up time?
So much in there. I really don't have anything to add other than to say, yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's all true what you're saying, because I've been through each one of those steps from high school to college and into chiropractic college. And now, I'm a parent and have all of that going on. And it has not slowed down. And I'm always looking for more ways to get more done in less time, but enjoy it all.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's like, how can I compress time and make this really juicy? Because, man, I was busy with one kid. I've got 3 now. And I'm like, holy cow.
Me too.
I thought I was busy with 1, And then you have 3 and you're like, holy, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Well, let's talk about your personal heroes. Who are they?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, my personal heroes, I've got some great ones. My dad is definitely one of my personal heroes. The guy is just awesome and he's a rock, and the guy is just phenomenal. My father-in-law is one of my personal heroes too. The guy knows how to work and put forth effort and energy like none other. And you see his passion and motivation for those things. My wife, she's just amazing. She's one of those people that I've always looked at and just said, dang, how does she do it all? She's just an amazing woman. And I'm blessed to have her in my life. And I'm blessed that she said yes to me whenever I asked her to marry her. It's like one of those things. I definitely married up in so many levels with her, and she's just amazing. Whenever I see what she does on the day in, day out at home and professionally and with the kids and all those things. Those are people for me as far as that I get to interact with on a regular basis. Other people for me, I mean, my church and God, that's big for me. That's a big aspect for me as well. That's something I can look at and say, man, that's truly deepening my relationship with who I am and who I want to be as well. And we have so many great people in our profession too that we can look at. Like my buddy Brad Glowacki is just awesome. Pat Gentempo, I've gotten to know him a bit over time. Jason Deitch, he's just great people. There's all these people that are doing great things out in chiropractic. Everest coaching is just an amazing thing, and they're doing phenomenal stuff and helping docs change things within their practices. I just love seeing all the stuff that's going out there, and there's so many people that we can dive into and connect with. And one thing that I will say, like any doc that's out there, no matter what level that you're at, any doc that is successful or any person that's successful wants to see more people successful, right? You're doing this podcast because you're successful and you want to see more people be successful. And I've never had an opportunity where I've gone and talked to somebody that was successful and said, hey, do you have 2 minutes for me to pick your brain about this? They might not have it right then, but they want to have it and they want to make it happen for you so that they can help you up your game and maybe just give you one gold nugget that you can take from it and say, yes, let me help you with that. Or I don't have time to personally coach you with all this, but let me tell you about this one thing that you could do to help yourself. People are so willing to help. You just have to be willing to reach out to them and change the people that you're hanging around with in order to make that happen for yourself too.
Well, you talked about compressing time and getting more done. Is there anything you do on a daily basis that really helps structure your life or to give you inspiration? Things like affirmations, prayer,
for sure,
habits, anything like that you could share with us? For
sure. So I'll tell you, my morning routine sets the tone for my entire day. I usually wake up at about 4:30, 4:45 to get my day started. That's where I really like to get up and get going. And so when I get up, the first thing that I do is I write down all my goals that I have. I write those down to start off the day. Then I get into my affirmations with that associated too. And so I take my time and compress that as well. Then I exercise. I do that first thing in the morning. While my level is up after exercising and my energy is high, then I do my visualizations. And so I've got my vision board, which is directly associated with my goals and reflects that too. It's just in a visual way too, because I'm a kinesthetic person and I'm also a very visual person. So I write them down and then I can visually see those goals too with my vision board. Then I go into prayer because I'm still high, right, from my workout, and my energy level is higher then. So I want to do that so that I can connect in with myself and what it is, my source and my spirituality as well. That all ties back in. And then I'm starting my day as far as I'm waking the kids up. I'm getting them going. My wife is getting going at that time too. And we're all syncing up together. I like to, like you said, compress time. So I take my kids to school every single day. So I have that time with them in the drive. I walk them to school. I walk them up to the school and do the whole thing to where I have that time with them. And they love that. And I cherish that as well. Whenever we do daddy-daughter dates, we do, guidance nights. We do all those things on a consistent basis that we have a rhythm within that as well, so that we're constantly having that time that is just their time. It's just time for them. Same thing with my wife. This weekend, I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but this weekend marks 17 years that my wife and I have been dating. So this weekend will be 17 years since we had our first date. And I'm very, very excited and proud about that because it's something that she and I have had together that we consistently have date night. And so all of those things allow me to get more done outside of family time to where it's poured into practice. And then we don't spend time like watching TV. We spend time playing games, like board games. We spend time doing sports stuff. We spend time doing things to where it's not like, all right, we're going to go do this thing. I understand people have their different stuff, but our stuff, I want to make it interactive, not passive. So that's how I can compress more time too.
Well, that's all great advice, and congratulations on your upcoming anniversary. That's really
thank you
great.
Very much.
Well, speaking of time, we are running short of time, and all good things must end. But before we let you go, do you have a favorite book that you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Oh, man, there's so many great ones, and I love to read. I really love to read. So, one of the ones that I'm reading again right now and that I would definitely recommend to is is Influence. I like that book. It's Robert Cialdini's. It's called Influence. It's a great book, and it can be put in a perspective of, well, how can I use this to help myself and help my patients see what's going on around them and see what it is that they can do to further themselves, better themselves. I like that book. It's a good one.
What's the best business advice anyone's ever told you?
The best business advice anyone's ever told me. I'm laughing because it's from my father-in-law. It's from my father-in-law. And he said, the absolute best thing about being a business owner is that you get to work any 80 hours a week that you want.
So true.
Yeah. I was like, yes, right on. So there it is. That's, so you can also look at it as if you're working 40 hours a week, you're actually working part-time. So
yeah, there
you go.
Yeah, get to work.
That's right.
Well, Dr. Alex Vidan, thank you so much for donating your time to us today and sharing all your valuable insights and wisdom with our listeners. You have dropped so many value bombs that I have taken notes on. I really appreciate you being on the show today, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And also, I know I said it a couple of times, I truly appreciate what you're doing here with this podcast and for our profession. It means a lot to me, and I know it means so much to so many people out there because you're helping elevate the profession and elevate the level that we're all playing at. So thank you so much for everything you're doing as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and we are going to link to everything that we talked about in our show notes today, including how to get in touch with you. So what's the best way for people to connect?
Sure. The best thing to do is, you can always connect with me on Facebook, Alex Vidan. And so that's Vidan. You can connect with me there. Of course, you can shoot me an email. I'm happy to do that too. It's Dr. Alex, so DRALEX at Dr. Vidan, DRVIDAN.com. I'm happy to help however I can and talk about whatever it is that we talked about here on the podcast today.
Thanks for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast at www.chirobusinessmojo.com.